I told y'all yesterday, sometimes y'all just gonna get what y'all get in regards to this content and things that I got to say. So, unless you have been under a rock, which I mean, I ain't gonna say unless you've been under a rock, it's fairly new. So, if you are not familiar with Derrick Jackson, who I believe is still in business some way, somehow, was a relationship educator or coach, and his demographic was black women. And primarily, he would just teach and tell black women how black men were the problem. It was more so like black women were never the problem. And I discovered him years ago when I was going through my own breakup. So to hear somebody saying that this man was the problem 100%, or at least 90%, sounded good to me. So, I listened to him years ago, but as I got older and came into my own knowledge and did my own research, I found that, he just wasn't somebody I wanted to rock with. So and I'm over here cutting up some bell peppers because I'm making dinner tonight. And dinner we are having salmon, rice, and kind of like making my own healthy Chipotle / kava bowl. So I put rice, broccoli, cauliflower, fajita peppers, fajita onions, bell peppers, and mushrooms. And I put like this sauce in it as well. So that's gonna be dinner tonight. But yeah, so I came across him and I got to my own space of like, I just wanted to educate myself. I wasn't really trying to follow what nobody was saying. So fast forward to, and that was years ago. Fast forward to 2022, you all know there was a quote unquote scandal that came out where basically he was a fraud. He was married and nobody really ever saw his wife and in his personal life, but he was married and it came out that he was cheating on his wife. Got caught, receipts were there. So when he got caught, and I'm giving a story time for people that just may not know nothing about him. So once he got caught, him and his wife that we had pretty much never seen before got on Beyonce and Al Gore's internet and put forward multiple public statements basically saying that he had learned the error of his ways, he was sorry, and his wife was going to stick beside him. And she was sitting beside him with what was then became known as a helmet of salvation, with what looked like a bonnet, a raggedy sweatshirt, looked really unkept, looked really, like she was a prisoner of war, if we just being honest, and sat right there and said basically like, y'all trying to tear down our family, I'm gonna stick beside my man, these are allegations, but we know some of it's true and we gonna push through this. So she went on a tirade even after that. He then shortly after said they were getting a divorce. Even when he said they were getting a divorce, his wife at the time was still online like she was fighting for her life in the marriage. So that said, she was online singing one tune and he was online singing another. So more receipts came out. It was very clear they were divorced. He had moved on, but it was kind of like she was stuck in this one place where she wasn't letting it go. And she was still speaking like, it's me against the world at this point, even once her husband was gone. So lo and behold, those messages kept coming and then things kind of died down with him and her. I haven't tried to keep up with him. I heard online, he's still kind of online doing stuff. I don't know how, but nothing had really come across my timeline for them. And I try to, keep up with what's going on in the relationship streets, good, bad, and different. So fast forward to yesterday and his ex-wife, I'm going to say allegedly ex-wife because I don't know if they fully divorced, but the woman he was in that marriage with, she was on a podcast called, I believe it's Future Wifey Podcast. I'll put the name of the podcast in the video below. But she was on the podcast and basically she has had her own relationship awakening, as I like to call it, her own come to Jesus, her own spiritual moment where she basically is just confessing that she was in this marriage and relationship with a man that she knew was, look, I feel like some heat was coming off my back. That she knew was a dog. She talked about how it was so bad that she was in rotation with other women. She would be coming up the stairs. Another woman might be coming down. They was working in shifts basically with this man. She talked about how it got so bad that she would be online like studying other women, trying to emulate them because she felt like if she could emulate them or imitate them, that maybe that would make her then husband interested in her. So basically it was very clear. This woman had lost her self-esteem, had no self-worth, had no self-value, did not know who she was, had lost her identity in this relationship. And pretty much it was due to being with a man who was not who he said he was, but also, unlike him, I'm never gonna place blame on no one person. But my demographic mainly is women. So I'm going to say, well, he was clearly a fraud, a scammer. It appears, I'm not a clinician, so I can't diagnose him, but it appears he has some, narcissistic traits there. I'm sure there's a lot of gaslighting and things like that going on. But I am going to step over to the ownership and the role that us women do play in these relationships when we kind of set ourselves up for failure when we are in relation with someone who has shown us their true colors and we choose not to believe them. All right, so I'm done cutting them onions. So I'm going to carry on with this story time. So what I was saying was the fact that, unlike that gentleman who chose to market to a demographic of women who have been suffering through breakups and bad relationship problems and give them the bait of black men or men just being the problem because it would make you feel better in the moment. I go another route, and I'm all about accountability. And something that I pointed out, a couple of things I pointed out on my Instagram today and talking about this situation. And I wanted to come on here to just elaborate more because y'all know we only got so much we can say on social media, on Instagram or Facebook. But the first thing I said was that, one, as women, we have to make sure that we know our worth and we know our value. But when I was thinking about that, I was like, why do women get in positions? Why do we get in positions where it's like we don't know our worth, we don't know our value, we allow men to treat us like shit? Like, how does that happen? And so I'll just go backwards and then forwards again. So I was saying that, in that situation of her feeling like she's going down the stairs, another woman is coming up the stairs. There are so many women that we all know present day. We know somebody that's in that situation where they know they're dealing with somebody. They're not in a monogamous relationship. They want to be in a monogamous relationship, but they're choosing to engage in activity or sexual activity with this person where they are then being passed around because there's no protection happening. So you having sex with everybody that he's having sex with, and then you're upset about it when you don't get the relationship, or you wind up with a child that you didn't really desire with this person, or you wind up with something like a disease that you cannot get rid of. But overall, you wind up just with more of your self-worth and more of your value and more of your self-worth and value gone, and more pain than you thought you were signing up for, but you signed up for it. And when I say you signed up for it, I mean, I used to sign up for it too. Going into these situations, just kind of thinking, I'm having fun, it's going to be a good time, but in the back of my mind, kind of knowing that I wanted something else and kind of settling for what was given to me when I should have known better. But in reality, should I have known better? So that brings me to something else I talked about. Growing up, we didn't really learn a lot about relationships. Nobody really taught us. Growing up, my generation, I would say millennials, I'm gonna speak for us, we were taught just don't get pregnant. We weren't really taught nothing about how sex works. We weren't really taught much about our menstrual cycles. We weren't really taught about how you could have a healthy relationship with somebody. And you may go through a breakup, it may work, it may not, doesn't mean it's the end of the world. Like, all those things that come with happy and healthy relationships, we were not taught. And I think that we were not taught those things because our parents and our grandparents who raised us were not taught them either, or did not know how to teach us about them. So we were just in a position where all we knew was like, don't have sex. And that meant like stay away from boys. But human nature, you can't really stay away from boys. So you have these experiences and you're really just going through life learning by trial and error. And I think that learning by trial and error has gotten us to that point that I questioned earlier. Like, how could this young lady her name is Danae Jackson, she is really so many of us that have been a Danae Jackson. Like, how do we wind up in these unhealthy, toxic, hurtful, disrespectful situations that we don't want to be in with these people that we really don't want to be with, making these compromises that we don't want to make, settling in places that we know we shouldn't, just allowing overall our physical being, our mental being, our spiritual being to just be played with at the highest capacity. And we do it consistently. Many of us, 10 years, I don't say that count, but as you get later in your 20s, you're doing it. You see people in their 30s doing it. I know women in their 40s going on their 50s doing it, and that's crazy to me. But it's like, it's crazy, but have they ever sat down, if they were never taught, have they ever got tired of their own shit? And Iyanla Van Zant said that recently, that until you get tired of your own stuff, you're never going to stop the cycle. And a lot of people's like, oh, that's mean. I'm like, no, that's real. That's very real. Because I know for me, until I got sick and tired of being sick and tired of my own stuff, I was consistently signing up, dating the same kind of man, exhibiting the same kind of behaviors, allowing the same thing to happen to me. And I had to hit my own relationship or love rock bottom to know that I am worth more than this. And I'm at a space now that I love, and not saying I'm perfect, but no man, woman, cat, dog, anybody can make me do anything that I don't want to do anymore, be in any relationship that I don't want to be in. You don't treat me right, you gone. It's easy for me to get up and get myself out of there, like Moneybag. So, the one rapper I do know, one of the few. But going back to the point, you know, it's people, we look at like, oh, you're too old to be doing that. Well, if that person never hit their own rock bottom, they never got tired of themselves, they never took the time to really learn and teach themselves, because that's what it comes down to. The reason, to answer the question I brought up earlier, the only way that women will not fall into the same steps that Danae Jackson fell into and exhibited those same behaviors is if they get sick and tired of being sick and tired, they reach their own rock bottom, and they make a very conscious and personal choice to say, I'm going to teach myself what my self-worth is, what my value is, what a healthy and happy relationship looks like, what toxicity looks like, how to set boundaries, how to identify my triggers, how to stay the hell away from people who tap into my triggers, just how to stop making bad relationship choices. And in doing that, it's in no way saying that you're gonna always get it right 100% of the time. But I bet you start to do a better job. You may, the first couple times, you may still pick the wrong man, but after a while you do better with picking a man. And if you pick somebody that's not a good choice, I bet you learn how to leave quicker. I bet you learn how to say, if you do that again, it's not gonna work if it's not too egregious. I bet you learn if it is too egregious, depending on what your bandwidth is, to say, hey, I'm out of here, because I ain't gotta give you 3 strikes. This ain't baseball. Like, I don't know who taught us that we gotta give people second chances. Grace is a beautiful thing, but you gotta learn when, where, and how to apply grace. And that's another episode we'll talk about on another day. But I think that if people, I think the answer to the messenger for anybody that says like, how does she stay with him? How did she deal with that? Why was she having sex with him knowing he's having sex with other women? Why did she sit there and hold his hand knowing that he was lying? Like, why does she endure all those things? One, sometimes when people get married, that till death do us part, they take it very seriously. Not saying you shouldn't, but they take it quite literally, meaning like nothing is gonna make me part from here. But the other side of it is, you know, women like her have to just get to that space of knowing, well, why they just, let me back up. They take that till death do us part quite literally, but the other part is that they just don't know how to escape it. They haven't done the work. And some of them haven't done the work because they don't know they need to do the work. Some aren't willing to do the work. Some don't know how to do the work. That's why I try to educate the way that I do. Some don't know where to go for the work. Some people have shame attached to it. It's a lot of different layers to it. But ultimately, the way that we escape from falling in the footsteps of, I'm using her name, Danae Jackson, is one thing, allegedly, you know, what she went through. The way we escape those behaviors just in any situation is by just tapping into ourselves and recognizing that, you know, the relationship that we desire is out there. You can't rush it. You can't force it. You can get in a relationship. Probably won't work if you don't do the work. But you have to understand that sometimes you may have to be in a season. I'm not even going to say a single season, but a season of knowing that when you are going to wait for the right person that's going to treat you the way that you deserve and give you the relationship that you desire, most times it's going to take a little bit longer. Sometimes you could bump into somebody, you know, randomly, that love at first sight, met them, 30 days later we got married. You know, those one-offs, those things do work. But for the most part, it's going to take some time. You're going to be single for a little while longer if you are choosing not to settle. You are going to have to recognize that what I'm waiting for now, what I'm waiting for is okay, because I'm going to continue to do the work on myself right now. But also, another thing is recognizing that where you are in your life right now, this moment, this space, this time, this is exactly where you are supposed to be. And something that I always say is when I think about relationships that I had in my 20s or even earlier 30s, had I said I was going to stay in those messed up relationships and, you know, niggas will ask you to marry them knowing that they ain't got no business doing it. So say if one of them men had asked me to marry him, I said, yeah, I probably would have stayed in it, would have been unhappy. Would have been those women that's like, girl, I can't stand him. I'm just here for the kids. Probably would just turn to one of those people, or turn to somebody that was cheating, or turn to a lot of other things. So I said all that to say I am so grateful to be where I am right now, because I know when, because it's coming, the relationship, because niggas like buses. Miss one, next 15, one coming. They always coming. That when my next relationship comes, that I'm going to be ready for it. I'm going to be in a mature enough space for it. I'm going to be in an authentic enough space for it to know that anybody who's going to be in my space and cannot accept who I authentically am cannot be in my space at all. But also, I'll know what to do with that person. I'll know how to treat that person. I'll know not to mistreat that person. All the things that when I think back that I was doing in my 20s in relationships, because while it was all crazy, the man wasn't the only person doing crazy stuff. I was too. So if I look at what I was doing then and where I am now, I definitely will value a relationship and a marriage a lot more now than I would have 10 years ago. So I just use myself as an example to say, if you're thinking that it's too late, or it's not going to happen, or I wish it would have happened, no. Crop that out your head. You have to understand that everything happens, say, according to the reason and the season that it's supposed to. And you just have to be patient. So, being impatient will get you in situations like the Danae Jacksons of the world, with men who treat you like shit and you allow it, men who openly have sex with other women while you're married or in a relationship and you allow it, men who just treat you less than you deserve and you allow it. You hear me keep saying you allow it, because even though they're doing those things, people only treat you the way that you allow them to treat you. So even if this person is doing all these terrible things, if you don't have the strength to leave, you're going to stay there and you're going to take it. But if you have the wherewithal to know that I'm not even going to sign up for that craziness, then your life's going to look a lot different. So remember that woman is one of many. We have to lean on each other. We have to teach one another. We have to help each other heal. We have to help each other grow, because there's so much value in us putting the information like this out into the world, because sometimes it's somebody somewhere who's never heard it, and it's somebody who needs to hear it again, and it's somebody who needs to really just know that there's a resource out there for them to tap into to be able to move past things like that. And the other side is just knowing that you are exactly where you're supposed to be, and the worth that is in you, the value that is in you, it is up to you to tap into that. Like, I can't force it out of you. No man, you give it a man and you still don't know your worth, it's still not gonna go right. No man, woman, cat, dog, nobody can force it out of you. It is self-work that you have to do. So I think that this situation with Danae Jackson is absolutely a lesson in self-worth and self-value, and understanding that relationships can be very easy, but relationships are work. Like, even when you get in a relationship, you still have to do the work on yourself and the work in the relationship. So you have to be willing to do the work now before the relationship even shows up, to know that when a person shows up, when a person shows up, if you don't tell them how to treat you, or they gonna treat you how they want to treat you, and you can't always guarantee that it's the way that you want to be treated. So I'll stop right there, and I'll say, when this first came out last year, we was laughing about the helmet of salvation. Ooh, we can't believe she stayed with him. Can't believe she's still there, But she's one of many. She's one of us. So we just have to know, y'all, please excuse my nails. I have gel polish that I'm peeling off, but I had to get this video out. It's going to be, I said it yesterday, I think. It's going to be out by tonight. But she is one of us, and we all have, myself included, have work to do, have growth to do, have healing to do. And we have to just stay consistent in the game of understanding our value and what that will look like forever. So I hope that this message finds who it needs to. But know that, like I said on a post I put today, Shaka and Whitney both said, I'm every woman, and we really are all every woman. I am you, you are me. And it's up to us to do the work to make sure that in the end, we all win.